friends. Hope you're doing well. So, I was watching a Caleb Hammer video while I was editing over there, editing the photos, and it's sometimes I feel like sometimes he's just a little mean to his guests without them deserving it. But he had something to say about how kind of the younger generation is stuck feeling, there's this victim mentality. And I was thinking about this. I was thinking about kind of what I was talking about yesterday with making small steps to improve myself, and this idea that you get stuck kind of rotting, so to speak. You're on the social media feed and you're scrolling, and Caleb's point was kind of like there's a lot of therapy talk that gets used as to, just like mental health. And it's like, yeah, that is important, but like his bigger point that he kind of like ham-fisted was about just the realities of life. It's like, well, you need to, if you're only working 36 hours a week and your rent is half of your take-home pay, you need to do something else. You need to get another job, and the guest was kind of just like, well, I'm working and trying to, I work from 8 to 5, and and he's like, well, get a job on nights and weekends, and she's just like, well, I applied to 3 places, and he's like, that's the problem with you people is, and it's like, I see where she's coming from, and it felt like he was just like unnecessarily mean to her, because it's just like, I don't know, man, like maybe he was just like, get a better job. But the girl was also kind of like a little all over the place. It's here nor there. She had some bad takes, and then he was just mean about it, as opposed to being like, I feel like sometimes maybe he amps it up it makes the show more interesting to watch. It's here nor there. Dr. Phil, we'll call it, the Dr. Phil syndrome of like, if you're empathetic, it's not as good of a show to watch. So, anyway, and it connected a dot in my head about, you sit and you rot on the social media, just scrolling through shorts and reels, and there's so much stuff on there about, how hard it is. I can see these memes come up a lot about just like, the price of this has risen, and it's like, yes, that's true, and shit sucks. Like, I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat that. Stuff sucks. But it's like, you see that, and I feel like it makes you feel okay that you're not doing better in life, and so you kind of just like accept. It feels like you're accepting. I don't know why I'm doing Italian hands now, but it feels like you're accepting it, and it doesn't feel. And that's what starts to create that rot cycle of like, well, the game's stacked against me, why should I even bother playing? As opposed to, what can I do about this? Given my resources, given my abilities, given my interests, And it doesn't have to be 2012 Russell Crowe, the Hustle Bro, hustle culture kind of bullshit. Like, there are things that you can do to improve your situation. Case in point, yesterday I made a video where I talked about 4 simple things that I'm going to be trying to do for the rest of the month. I turned my phone into black and white mode. Gonna drink more water. Gonna walk a little further. Forgot what the 4th one is already. I'll go watch the video again. I don't know. It's not that important. I was moving more. Drinking water. The phone going black and white. And there's another one, I think. I don't know. Those 3 are the important ones, I think. I feel like. But, it's just like, okay. Those are 3 things that cost no money. They take no effort. Walking more takes effort, obviously, but like, not really. It's like, I'm gonna walk further with my dog, and he deserves it. He's a good boy. That's not a hard sell. Most of the time I walk him we have kind of like an indefinite amount of time to do it, and I could be out there for an hour, and it really doesn't matter. I'm very rarely like, let's go for a walk before I gotta go to work. Like, that does happen. Like, there's days where I have long shoot days, and I'm like, you gotta go outside, kid, before I leave, because you're gonna be in the house for most of the day. But he's good, he can hold it pretty well. 16, 17 hours. There's definitely been days where it rained for like a whole day, and he was totally fine and didn't go outside for probably 20 or 24 hours. It didn't make a mess in the house. Granted, he is getting older, so that's harder and harder for him to do. But I feel like as long as I'm taking him out every 12 hours, he's usually pretty good. So, but there's other things you could do there with walking. You'd find ways to steal those steps. You could just do things inefficiently. And it's like, well, yeah. So, like, we got home, I walked upstairs, and I took 2 trips to take in the groceries, as opposed to just doing it all in one trip, which I probably could have done. But 2 trips, and that gave me the extra, I don't know, I think it's like 200 steps to go from the apartment to the ground floor. Just simple things like that. So that's 200 back, that's 400 steps. It doesn't seem like a lot, but it does add up when you do it several times a day. You do several little things like that. And so it kind of reminds me, and I feel like maybe I've talked about this before, but in the game of Warhammer, gonna keep talking about this shit, tiny little things that don't seem super significant do start to add up, and then as they start to add up, you start to gain advantage over your opponent. For the sake of purpose, we're not gonna do the whole like, well, zero-sum games. The world, your current existence versus what your potential existence could be. That's all we need to focus on, because realistically, you're not gonna make enough of a shift to, you're probably not gonna be the next Jeff Bezos. Maybe you are, and if so, sorry for doubting you. This future self, please give me money in the future. But it's like these small little things start to stack up, and it's like you make a choice. It's like, instead of drinking Mountain Dew, you drink a water. This is a 0, by the way. It's not a real Mountain Dew. It's a fake Mountain Dew. This is one of 2 I have left, and once I finish these Mountain Dews, I'm gonna try to go back to no soda. Just I realize I feel a lot better when I'm drinking water. So yeah, it's just like these small tweaks, and that's really what it is. It's just these tiny things that add up over time, and getting yourself out of these cycles and not letting yourself be a victim to a rigged game. It's like the game is rigged against you. Carnival games are rigged against you, but you still like to play them, don't you? And sometimes you even win. So think about life like that. It's just a carnival game. You pay your money, you take your chances. It's stacked against you, but sometimes good things happen. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And you see, if you go on YouTube right now, you're already on YouTube. Hello. You can search like trick shot people who go to carnivals and win rigged games to the point where the carnival people are like, fuck off. You're doing too good at this. You're ruining our profit margins, jerk. But there's like ways to beat a lot of there's skill games, there's ways to beat them. There are ways to win in life, and they are not as complicated as you might think. Things like having compounding interest be your friend. And we were doing this with my girlfriend today. I was like, okay, you have an emergency savings account, right? She's like, yeah. And it's like, you have this amount of, somebody's in the hallway making a lot of freaking noise. It's 2:26 in the morning. My neighbors, we call them Rick and Anita. It's a long story. Anyway, fucking Rick. So yeah, I was talking to her. I was like, okay, you have an emergency savings fund. It's like, what is your interest rate on that emergency savings fund? And it's like less than 1% is what her bank is giving her. And it's like, okay, if you put your money in a high yield savings account, it's equally safe. You're not investing it, but you would be making a 5% return. So that is a huge difference. You talk about say you had $1,000 in your savings account, every year that would add up to, that'd be, what is that, $50 versus the other one where you would get, I don't even know what it was. I think it was, you'd be like $8, something like that. So it's just like, okay, you're, with the cost of inflation, currently right now, that $50 still doesn't beat inflation probably, but like that $8 definitely isn't beating inflation, and the money is still relatively easy to get to. And so you think about things like that, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't make a huge difference, but like, imagine if your savings, your emergency savings was, you know, what it should be, 6 months of expenses or whatever, you know, that's 10 grand. Now it's $500 a year. That's a difference. That's one emergency. Just by switching where your emergency fund is held, you are now, am I doing the math right on that? That doesn't seem like it should be right. Let's ask Siri. What's 5%? Oh no. What's 5% of $10,000?
It's $500.
Boom, I did the math right. I went to college. So, but you see the point there. You think like, what do tires on a car cost? Like about $500. Like, what does, you know, an unexpected doctor bill cost? Like about $500. And so it's like, if you just had that $10,000, which is, you know, probably 6 months worth of your expenses, give or take. You know, if you lived a fairly, you know, moderate lifestyle, depending on where you live, you know, there's all kinds of factors that go into that. But let's say $10,000 for 6 months. Every year, you'd get one emergency added in, or you could just take that $500 and stick it in your retirement fund. Do you think about what that would be like, you know, otherwise? You're not getting $500, you're getting much less. You're getting $8 or whatever I said that was. Or probably $80, I guess that would be. If you had $10,000, yeah, that'd be like $80, which does not pay for an emergency. Got you. So, did I convince you? If yes, Twitch, go look at what your emergency fund is saving. And if you don't have an emergency fund, start one. You know, you can get auto withdrawals every month. That's what I have in my bank. Every month it takes $25 and sticks it into my emergency fund. And then it adds up over time. Then when I need that money, I pull it back. And it costs me nothing. It's just something my bank offers me to do. That's it. That's all you have, you know. So think, if you have an emergency fund, step one. If you don't have an emergency fund, start one. Even if it's, you know, you probably need $100 or whatever to get the account started, but get that ball rolling. And then set up auto drafts. You'll completely forget. If you're not good with finances, you won't even notice the money's going away. And then one day, you're like, oh fuck, I need new tires for my car. Pff, emergency fund, it's there. You don't have to go to a credit card for it. And because you don't have to go to a credit card for it. So now think about this. That is the swinging, the positive way for you. Now, the alternative is you don't have an emergency fund and you need to put those tires on a credit card. And now you have to pay that off over time and you're paying 30% interest. Or let's say you got a really good rate and it's, you know, 20% interest. You're paying 20% interest on that $500 over the next 6 months or the year or whatever, when you could have just not noticed that money go missing and then had an emergency fund. So, step one, start an emergency fund, high yield savings account. I use Fidelity. You use whatever, do some research. You could probably get 4 to 5% right now on a good high yield savings account. Probably be online, realistically. Fidelity's a good one. I like it. I get no referral because we looked up. I was gonna set my girlfriend up. And it was like, referral, like, do I get a referral bonus? No. No referral bonuses from Fidelity. So use them or don't. I don't care. I don't get anything out of it. Then, set up auto and just get that money into that account a little bit at a time. Before you know it, you'll have an emergency. You'll have the money. You won't have to go in debt for it. So that's just like one example of how you can make these small tweaks. And then they add up over time, even in a rigged game where tires, you're getting gouged on the fucking tires, I'm sure. Sure, whatever the cost of the tires is, you know, they probably cost $10 to make and they're selling to you for $500. because they're fuckers. They're all fuckers. But that doesn't mean you should do nothing about it. Like, it just means you have to play the game a little smarter. So, join me. Help me help you. Let's take some small steps. Today's small step is let's look at, do we have an emergency fund? If not, let's set one up. And if we do, let's make sure we're getting a good interest rate so that our money is working for us at least a little bit. And we'll set up the auto withdrawals. If you're underfunded, you're not funded at all, or even if you're overfunded, set up those auto withdrawals, and then every 6 months, take that excess that you don't need, stick it into your IRA if that's not fully funded. And if that is fully funded, then the next step would be just a taxable account. So, And if you need investing advice, there is a book, and now I can't remember the name of it, but it's written by a guy named John C. Bogle. It's fun. This is a fun name, Bogle. It's a good name. And he talks about it's simple investing. It's a pretty thin book, and it's on Audible. It's like 4 hours or something like that. But it basically just talks about the easy way to invest, do passive investing, where you just put your money in the market and you do what's called index funds. Index funds are essentially the TLDR version of an index fund is that, like, you give them money, they take that money and fractionalize it, and they buy everything in their index, which you can get market-wide. So, like, any company that trades stock in America, you get fractional shares of all of it by just buying one stock ticker. That's it. So, as long as the stock market goes up, which historically it always has, not saying there aren't down periods, but if you're 12, 13, 14, 15, up to 40, your money will be in the market for 20, 30 years at least, and over time it'll smooth out and it'll be upward trend. So do that, and let's do better. Yeah, that sounds hard, right? Like, that all sounds pretty easy. Like, this stuff you can figure out in an afternoon with, like, mild research while you watch Netflix. Like, you put Netflix on your computer and you just search, like, Fidelity, high yield savings account, whatever, and you'll find some information. You set up an account, you transfer some money over, set up the auto thing, boom, done. You're done in, like, an episode of The Office, probably, maybe less. The Office isn't on Netflix anymore, but you get the idea. You know what I'm talking about, so fucking do it. ASMR Bully, helping you do better. We're not victims. We're going against the rigged system, because people do it every day. Every day people are winning, despite the system being rigged. Don't let your phone lie to you that shit sucks. It does, but it doesn't have to suck that bad. We can do something about our situation. So let's do something about our situation. Yeah. Sound good? Okay, good. Alright, I hope you're doing well.